$100,000 lawsuit because a kid called a teacher a boomer. A single sarcastic word, okay boomer, muttered by a 17-year-old smartass in a small-town high school classroom, explodes into a $100,000 defamation lawsuit that tears apart two families, exposes decades of buried resentment, and forces everyone to ask who the real victim actually is. If you've ever rolled your eyes at the phrase, kids these days, you might want to listen to what happened in Willow Creek, Ohio, 3 years ago. Because one of those kids cost a teacher everything, and the teacher almost cost that kid his future. And the worst part? Both of them still think they were in the right. It started on a Thursday that smelled like burnt coffee and dry erase markers. Room 204, Willow Creek High, third period American history. Mrs. Laura Hendricks was 58, sharp as ever, but tired in the way only public school teachers get after 33 years of teenagers. That morning, she was trying to explain the New Deal to a room full of seniors who were mostly scrolling TikTok under their desks. One of those seniors was Ethan Caldwell, tall, quick with a joke, the kind of kid teachers either love or quietly hate. Ethan had a habit of muttering under his breath when he thought something was stupid. Usually it was harmless. That day, it wasn't. Mrs. Hendricks was mid-sentence. FDR knew the country needed bold, persistent experimentation. When Ethan, without even looking up from his phone, sighed loud enough for the front row to hear and said, "Okay, boomer." The room froze. A couple kids snorted. Someone whispered, "Oh shit." Mrs. Hendricks stopped writing on the board. The marker squeaked once and went silent. She turned around slowly. "What did you just say, Mr. Caldwell?" Ethan realized the room was listening now. He could have let it die. Instead, he shrugged, gave that half smirk that looks confident but is actually panic in a hoodie, and repeated, louder. "I said, okay, boomer." Half the class lost it. The other half stared at their desks like the floor might open and swallow them. Mrs. Hendricks didn't yell. She just looked at him for 5 long seconds, then said very calmly, "See me after class." That should have been the end of it. A detention, maybe a phone call home, everyone moves on. But Laura Hendricks had been teaching since Ethan was in diapers. She'd watched the world change, watched respect evaporate, watched her pension shrink and her husband die of cancer while the district made her pay more for health insurance every year. And that morning, for whatever reason, okay, boomer, was the straw that snapped something inside her. She didn't give him detention. She sent him to the principal with a referral that read, in part, student publicly humiliated teacher, using age-based derogatory meme terminology in front of peers. Refused to apologize. Still not the end of the world, except Ethan's parents, Michelle and Darren Caldwell, were the type who filmed every parent-teacher conference on their phones just in case. When the school called, Michelle went full mama bear. She stormed into Principal Garcia's office demanding the referral be removed because it was just a joke and freedom of speech. Garcia, new and terrified of lawsuits himself, quietly reduced it to a warning. That should have been that. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, Laura Hendricks got a letter from a law firm in Columbus. Inside was a thick packet, a cease and desist, a demand to retract the defamatory referral, and a little note that said if she didn't comply within 10 days, the Caldwells would seek damages for the emotional distress their son had suffered from the public shaming. Laura laughed when she read it, then she cried. Then she called her brother, Mark, who happened to be an attorney, a real one, not the TikTok kind. Mark read the letter and said, "Laura, they're bluffing. Ignore it." But the Caldwells didn't bluff. They filed in county court $100,000 for defamation per se, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and loss of future earning capacity because the referral was now in Ethan's permanent file and might hurt his college applications. The local paper picked it up the next week. Headline, teacher sued for $100K after student calls her boomer. Suddenly, Laura Hendricks, who still drove a 2009 Corolla with a cracked dashboard, was the villain of the internet. Twitter was brutal, memes everywhere. Someone photoshopped her face onto Thanos with the caption, "I am inevitable." Laura couldn't sleep. She'd get in her car after school, drive to the empty Meijer parking lot, and just sit there until the dome light timed out. She kept replaying Ethan's smirk in her head. She started seeing it in her dreams. That's when things got weird. Her lawyer brother Mark discovered something while digging through Discovery. Ethan's mom, Michelle Caldwell, had a side hustle. She ran a pretty successful mommy blog and Instagram with 180,000 followers. 3 days after filing the lawsuit, she posted a tearful video titled "When the School System Bullies Your Child." The video got 4.2 million views. In the first 48 hours, her PayPal and Venmo for Ethan's legal defense fund took in $68,000. Mark showed Laura the numbers. "They're grifting," he said. "This isn't about Ethan's feelings. This is their lottery ticket." Laura stared at the screen. Something cold settled in her stomach. She asked Mark a question she never thought she'd ask. "Can we countersue?" They did. For abuse of process, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress on her. And that's when the real war started. The discovery phase was brutal. They deposed Ethan first. He sat across from Laura's lawyer in a too-big suit trying to look tough, but his leg bounced under the table the whole time. When they asked why he never apologized, he shrugged and said, "She's the adult, she should have let it go." Then they deposed Michelle. She cried on cue, talked about her son's anxiety, how the referral triggered panic attacks. But under cross, she accidentally admitted the legal defense fund money had paid for their new kitchen remodel and a family trip to Cancun to help Ethan heal. The judge was not amused. Meanwhile, Laura's life was unraveling. Parents pulled their kids from her class. Someone slashed her tires. She found OK Boomer scratched into her classroom door. She started taking antidepressants just to get out of bed. But here's where the story twists hard. One night, 3 weeks before trial, Laura was grading papers at 1 a.m. when she got an email from an address she didn't recognize. Subject line, "I'm sorry." Inside was a single paragraph from Ethan. "Mrs. Hendricks, my parents made me do the video and everything. I told them it was stupid, but they said we could finally move out of this shithole town if we won. I never wanted this. I actually liked your class. I'm sorry I was an asshole that day. I wish I could take it back." Attached was a screenshot of text messages between Ethan and his mom where she wrote, "Aha, just play the victim, baby. Cry a little. We're so close." Laura read it 10 times. Then she forwarded it to her brother without a word. Mark wanted to destroy them with it, leak it to the paper, end the lawsuit, humiliate the parents. Laura sat on her couch for 2 days staring at the email. She thought about her own son, long grown and gone, how she'd once grounded him for 3 months for stealing $20 from her purse. She thought about what she would have done if someone had tried to ruin him over one dumb teenage moment. The night before they were supposed to file the motion attaching Ethan's confession, Laura called her brother and told him to stand down. "We're dropping the countersuit," she said. Mark lost his mind. "They'll walk away with everything." "No," she said, "they won't." The next morning, Laura met the Caldwell's lawyer in chambers with the judge. She handed over Ethan's email and the text messages, then made an offer. She would dismiss her countersuit and pay nothing, but in exchange, the Caldwells would dismiss their lawsuit with prejudice, return every dollar of the GoFundMe that wasn't spent on actual legal fees, and Ethan would read a public apology at the next school board meeting. If they refused, she would leak everything, Ethan's confession included, and let the internet finish them. They took the deal the same day. 2 weeks later, Ethan stood at the podium in the school auditorium. His voice cracked the whole time. He apologized to Mrs. Hendricks, to the school, to every donor who'd been scammed. His parents sat in the back row staring at the floor. The local news filmed it. The video got 500,000 views, title, "Teen Apologizes After $100K OK Boomer Lawsuit. Collapses." The Caldwells moved away 3 months later. Rumor is they're somewhere in Florida now, living much smaller than they planned. Laura retired at the end of that year. She still gets cards from former students, some of them now in their 30s, thanking her for teaching them how to think. She never told anyone about the email that saved her or the choice she made not to destroy a 17-year-old kid just to win. Sometimes, when she's watering her tomatoes in the backyard, she'll catch herself wondering if she did the right thing, letting them off that easy. Then she remembers Ethan's face at that podium, pale and shaking, and she thinks maybe mercy and justice aren't always enemies. And every once in a while, she gets an anonymous Venmo for $20 with the memo for the Corolla tires, "I'm sorry, E." She never spends it. She just lets it sit there, a quiet reminder that people can still surprise you, even the ones who call you Boomer. But the story didn't end the day Ethan read that apology. 2 years later, almost to the day, Laura Hendricks was at the Willow Creek Kroger on a Tuesday evening, the kind of quiet night where the only sound is the hum of the freezers and the occasional squeak of shopping cart wheels. She was in the cereal aisle, trying to decide between the off-brand Cheerios and the even cheaper store brand, when she heard someone say her name. "Mrs. Hendricks?" She turned. A young man stood there, taller than she remembered, hair cut short, no more hoodie, wearing a navy blue Kroger vest with a name tag that read Ethan. He looked like he hadn't slept well in weeks. Dark circles, shoulders folded in like he was trying to take up less space. I work here now," he said, voice barely above the muzak. "Third shift usually. Didn't expect to see you." Laura's heart did something complicated. She hadn't seen him since the school board meeting. She'd heard he'd graduated barely and that his parents had split up 6 months after the move to Florida. Michelle got the Instagram account and the divorce. Darren got the debt. "I heard you were at Ohio State," she said. It wasn't a question. Ethan gave a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah, lasted 1 semester. Couldn't afford the second after Dad stopped paying. Mom's remarried to some crypto guy who thinks college is a scam." He shifted his weight. So here I am, stocking shelves, living in my aunt's basement. Laura looked at the box of cereal in her hand like she'd forgotten it was there. She put it back on the shelf. I'm not here to make you feel worse, Ethan said quickly. I saw your name on the schedule for pickup orders and I switched shifts so I could, I don't know, say something that isn't on camera. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, the kind ripped from a receipt roll. He held it out. I wrote this last year, never sent it, figured you'd throw it away. But I want you to have it now. Laura took it. Her fingers brushed his. His hand was ice cold. She unfolded it under the fluorescent lights. Mrs. Hendricks, I think about that day every single day. Not just the boomer thing, the lawsuit, the video, how I sat there and let them use me because I was too scared to say no. I hated you for a long time after the apology, thought you ruined my life. Then I grew up a little and realized I handed you the matches and dared you to burn the house down. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know I finally get it. You could have ended us, you didn't. I don't know how you live with that kind of strength. Thank you for not being the monster I wanted you to be. Ethan. She read it twice. When she looked up, his eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying, just staring at her like he was waiting for a verdict. Laura folded the note carefully and slipped it into her purse. You know what I remember most? She said quietly. He shook his head. That morning, before you said it, you actually raised your hand and asked a good question about the WPA. You were the only one who did. I was proud of you that day, Ethan. Still am, a little, even now. His mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. Laura picked up the cheaper cereal after all, set it in her cart. I hope things get better, she said. They usually do, just slower than we want. She started to walk away. After 3 steps, she stopped, turned back. And Ethan? Yeah? If you ever want to take a community college class, night school, whatever, you send me an email. I still know a few people who owe me favors. He nodded once, fast, like he was afraid if he moved too slow, the offer would vanish. Laura walked to checkout. She didn't look back, but she felt him watching her the whole way. That night, she sat on her porch with a glass of cheap red wine and read the note again. Then she opened her phone, went to Venmo, and sent the entire balance of that old anonymous account, $640 by now, to Ethan Caldwell with the memo for books. LH. 3 weeks later, she got a text from an unknown number, a photo of an acceptance letter to Columbus State Part-Time Criminal Justice Program. Under it, just 3 words. Thank you, teacher. Laura smiled, set the phone down, and for the first time in years didn't feel the weight of that Thursday morning sitting on her chest. Sometimes the damage doesn't get undone. Sometimes it just changes shape. And every now and then, if you're lucky, it turns into something neither of you expected, like a second chance wearing a Kroger vest in the cereal aisle at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night. The end. For real this time.